Today, we are diving deep, conducting a full psychological investigation into one of the most famous confessions in all of literature. We're going to step inside the mind of a murderer, sift through his own words, and figure out what really happened in the Telltale Heart.
Right from the very first line, the narrator basically throws down a challenge. See, he's not just telling us a story, he's pleading his case directly to us. He is desperate for you to believe he's sane. And that one question, it sets the stage for everything. He's put us, the readers, right in the jury box.
So, okay, how exactly is he going to prove he's not mad? Well, his defense is strange, to say the least. Let's look at his core argument and the main tool we're going to need to pick it apart.
This is where his logic gets really twisted. He claims his disease has actually made him better, sharper, that his senses are so heightened, especially his hearing, that it's like a superpower. So he's not sick, you see, he's just more aware. And right there, that's our first giant red flag that this guy's view of reality is seriously warped.
And that brings us to this absolutely crucial idea, the unreliable narrator. Basically, it means we can't take anything he says at face value. His own mental state, his biases, they color every single word. So as we go through his testimony, we have to question everything. We have to act like detectives, looking for the truth between the lines.
All right, let's talk about motive. I mean, every crime has a motive, right? If he's sane, he must have had a good reason. Well, his reason might just be the best piece of evidence we have that he's totally lost his mind.
Get this, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about passion or revenge. In fact, he says he loved the old man. The reason he killed him, he says, was his eye. A single pale blue vulture eye. This bizarre, illogical obsession is a huge sign that he's not being driven by reason, but by some dark, uncontrollable compulsion.
And this obsession led to this incredibly creepy nightly ritual. For a whole week, he would sneak into the old man's room. He wouldn't do anything, just open his lantern ever so slightly and shine one single, thin ray of light on that sleeping eye. This wasn't a sudden crime of passion. This was slow, methodical, and completely fueled by his irrational fixation.
So you have to see that these things, the eye, the lantern, the watch, they're not just objects in a story. They're symbols. The evil eye isn't really about the old man's eye at all. It's a reflection of the narrator's own inner madness. The lantern shows how he tries to control and hide his darkness. And the heartbeat, ticking like a watch, is like a countdown to his inevitable breaking point.
Okay, so now the narrator moves on to his Exhibit A for the case of his sanity, just how carefully and precisely he pulled off the murder.
And oh, he is so proud of himself. He brags about how cautiously he moved, how he dismembered the body without leaving a single drop of blood, how perfectly he hid the remains. He thinks because he mastered the how of the crime, it proves he's rational. But he is totally ignoring the most important question, why? And that's the dead center of his delusion.
I love this analogy. It makes so much sense. Think about a sports broadcast. You've got the play-by-play announcer who just describes what's happening. He opens the door. He drags him to the floor. That's our narrator. But then you have the color commentator who explains the strategy, the psychology, the why. He can't do that. The irony is, his play-by-play gives us everything we need to provide our own color commentary, and our analysis points to one thing. This man is mad.
So the crime is done. The body's hidden. As far as he's concerned, he's committed the perfect crime. But his perfect composure is about to absolutely shatter. At the absolute peak of his arrogance, there's a knock at the door. It's the police. A neighbor heard a scream. But our guy, he's not even worried. He invites them in, chats with them, and even puts his own chair right over the floorboards where the body is hidden. He is just soaking it all in.
He is cool as a cucumber. But then, it starts. A noise. Just a low, dull ringing. He tries to ignore it, but it gets louder. And all the while, the police officers are just smiling and chatting, seemingly hearing nothing.
So what is this sound? Well, it's almost certainly not real. It's an auditory hallucination. It isn't the old man's heart beating under the floorboards. It's his own guilt, his own conscience, manifesting as a sound that only he can hear. It's the telltale heart of the title, and it's coming from inside his own head.
And this is the moment he completely breaks from reality. He's convinced the officers can hear it too. Their friendly smiles and pleasant conversation, in his mind, it's all an act. They're mocking him, playing with him, enjoying his suffering. His paranoia just goes into overdrive.
The sound gets louder and louder and louder until he just can't take it anymore. He completely snaps. He jumps up, shrieking, and confesses to the whole thing, pointing at the floorboards, desperate just to make the noise stop.
And there we have it, the confession. All the evidence has been presented mostly by the killer himself, so it's time for us, the jury, to deliver a final verdict.
So let's just review the evidence, shall we? The motive makes no sense. His main argument is deeply flawed. He thinks his symptoms are strengths. He descends into wild paranoia. And finally, his own guilt creates a hallucination that forces him to confess. Every single point he made to prove his sanity actually does the exact opposite.
So the verdict is guilty. Guilty of madness. The incredible irony is that his own story, the very testimony he offered up to prove he was sane, is the most powerful and compelling evidence of his insanity. In trying to defend himself, he managed to prosecute himself perfectly.
But I want to leave you with one final, kind of twisted thought. He's the villain, of course, but his own mind wouldn't let him get away with it. That beating heart he heard was basically his own conscience forcing him to do the right thing and confess. So, in a strange way, is it possible that the part of him that confessed was also the hero of his own tragic story? Something to think about.